Hi guys, Sandra here from Australia. Look, I don't normally buy into all of these arguments and all of this fake news stuff that, happens around the place, but um, just to share some helpful, I hope, information, because I'm seeing so much hateful sort of comments out there about Facebook and how Facebook should be taken down, and Facebook is the evil of the world, and good on Australian government, because you've seen the since Thursday, you've seen the headlines, right? Facebook blocks Australians from posting, sharing, and viewing news content, right? Now, this is news content that is controlled by Rupert Murdoch, right? And a lot of the times, this news content, it's not real news. It has a spin on it, right? So all of these news media, these big news media moguls here in Australia, who are actually owned and operated by Rupert Murdoch, and some other, devious evil people, they chose to create their own Facebook accounts. They chose to go onto Facebook and create a business account on there. It was free. It didn't cost them anything. Facebook didn't charge them to come and create a profile and then create create a business page on there. Facebook didn't sting them any money for that. And then they started sharing their own news stories on those pages. Now, Facebook didn't charge them for sharing their own news stories. The only time Facebook charged these guys was if these guys wanted to run a paid ad, just like anybody else. Now, these guys, these news media people, they joined Facebook 100% knowing that it's a social media platform and people share each other's content. So if you post content publicly, people will share it with each other. That's how the platform works. Everybody knows that. It's in the terms and agreement. It's in the policy agreement. And all of these news media sources, they actually signed yes on the agreement. So did any Australian government pages that happened to join Facebook. They signed the agreement and said yes as well. That's an actual legal binding contract. And now our Australian LNP government, right, because it's not the whole Australian government, it's just the ones in power at the moment, our Prime Minister, ScoMo, scumbag, and LNP, they, they now want to break a legal contract that they signed, a legal agreement, a legal privacy policy and terms and conditions. They now want to break that, and they actually want to extort money out of this business called Facebook, because they're posting their free content on there, their news stories, and members in Facebook are sharing their news stories around. So they want to bill Facebook, because they think that the only reason the Australian people, or anybody else for that matter in the world, is on Facebook is because of their content. So basically what they're saying is without their content, there never would have been a Facebook. Now, in spite of whether you like Facebook or not, whether you like Mark Zuckerberg or not, right, that is beside the point, right? That's not the issue here. The issue here is whether you like Facebook or not, it is an actual business, right? And the Australian LNP and big news corporations now want to charge a business that is a social media sharing business. They want to charge a business because they went there, signed the legal privacy policy terms and agreement, and posted their content on there for others to share, and they encouraged the public to share their content. And now they want a business to pay them for their content that they've been sharing, making out that this business is responsible for their loss of payment readerships, right? Now, I don't know about you, but I have personally gone to a lot of these websites and had a look at actually paying right? Paying the fee like you would, when newspapers were around, you could ring the company and you could pay a monthly fee and the newspapers would be delivered to your door, right? I've actually gone there and had a look at these websites and checked out their memberships and their subscriptions and stuff. And the fact that they're charging a minimum of $30 a month to get started, right? And then in 6 months' time, that fee goes up to $60 a month. I don't know. Would you pay a newspaper company $60 a month to deliver you 7 newspapers, that you can buy in the shop for $1 each? So that's only $7 a week. 4 sevens. So what's 4 sevens, people? Well, 3 sevens is 21, 4 sevens is 28. So that's only $28 a month. So online, these greedy grubs want you to pay more than double for your subscription to get your daily news? I don't think so. And that's why, people, that's why they're losing money. That's why they're losing readership content. And the other reason they're losing readership content is because they're not directing the traffic to their own website where they can, display ads from other companies. And when you click on those ads, you can make money. So they can charge, other businesses and stuff to put ads up on their website, right? Just like you would in a newspaper. Now, it's not Facebook's fault that these news people's, social media departments were dumb enough to just freely continually share all of their content, 100% of their content, 100% of the time, without doing anything to divert people to the website. It's not Facebook's fault. Whether you like Facebook or not, the fact is Facebook is a business. And if this legislation is passed in the Australian Parliament by the LNP government, this is what is going to happen. If they get this through and Facebook had bowed down to this legislation, this is what would have happened. Any other social media that they went and created an account on, like Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, MeWe, Twitch, Snapchat, all of them, right? TikTok, all of these other social media platforms, that will allow these media moguls to go and create profiles, free profiles on all of these other social media platforms. And then those social media platforms, under the Australian legislation that's being passed in Parliament at the moment by a corrupt LNP government who happens to get most of their funding from Rupert Murdoch and controls mainstream media in Australia and dictates to mainstream media what they're allowed to publish and how they publish their stories. If this legislation passes in Australian Parliament, every single social media business out there is now going to be at risk and have to pay for Australian news content. Now, I don't know about you, but if you owned a social media platform like TikTok and this legislation passed and all of a sudden any news media broadcasters on there were now demanding you pay them for their content that they're posting, would you display their content or would you do what Facebook has done? I guarantee you'd do what Facebook's done. You turn around and go, well, okay, we won't show your content. And you would just shut it all off. And that's fair enough. And that's fair enough. I mean, think about it, right? Think about it. When has any one of these Australian news media broadcasters who have, say, shown up at a car accident and you just happen to be in that car accident, and then they're interviewing you and witnesses for information for their news story, do they pay you and the witnesses for sharing your content with them? Hell no, they don't. Hell no, they don't. And without your stories, they wouldn't have a business to share content, would they? Hell no, they wouldn't. Yet they don't pay for their content, do they? They don't pay for everybody else's content that they're sharing. And they know, right? A news station will not be a news station if it's got no news to report on, because they have to pay for the news that they're getting from other people because it's other people's stories. Then, they wouldn't have a news station. So, I get the whole argumentation and backlash of Facebook, but this is not Facebook's problem. This is the whole world's problem, because if our greedy grubs Australian news media and government manage to pass this legislation, every business out there is now in danger. So if you have a website and you regularly rely on going to news media sources, Australian news media sources, and doing what they tell you to do on their websites, share their content, and you share one of their stories on your website and it links back to their website, like physically links back to their website, but you share it on your website, then that media company can then come after you and make you pay for using their content for your traffic. Now, does that seem fair to you? Because they're always reporting on your businesses in the news. Do they pay you for reporting on your businesses? No, they don't. They really don't. They don't pay you any financial aid. And on top of that, all of these news services, right? Here they are on Google. I don't know why Google backed down to this madness and even bothered to pay the Australian government, these news media services for the news on Google. I don't know why they did that. They're a search engine. These guys don't have to list with the search engine. They don't have to post a website. Why should Google have to pay them for the content that they're posting? I mean, seriously, Google owns YouTube, and I guarantee you every single one of these Australian news services have all monetized their channels. I guarantee it. And you want to know how I know that? Because I'm going to go, let's see, let me go to this one here. Let's open up these guys. I don't know which ones have monetized, but I know most of them have monetized their channels. And when you monetize a channel on YouTube, you're getting paid money for ads that display on your channel. That's what monetization is, people. You can display ads. Oh, shit, look at that. ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. And look at them, right? They're monetized. They're displaying an ad. And when people clicked on that ad and went to it, these guys got paid money, right? These guys got paid money for that. That's a monetized channel. And yet Google is still paying them, right? There's another ad that they're getting monetized for, right? And they still want Google to pay them money. Yet they're getting paid by Google for their monetized channels on YouTube. I don't know why Google backed down. I mean, if I had been Google, I would have told them to go jump in the lake personally. Seriously. I mean, why should they be able to double dip? And why, since when did it become illegal for a bunch of mobsters to extort money out of other businesses that are helping them out? Or other people that are helping them out? When? Since when did that happen, people? When did it become okay? What, is it only okay because you don't like Facebook and you hate Facebook and you hate Mark Zuckerberg and everything that Facebook stands for? Well, good. If you don't like Facebook, you don't like Mark Zuckerberg, don't go on Facebook. Don't create an account, close your account and leave Facebook. I mean, if every single person who has an account on Facebook closed their account tomorrow, Facebook wouldn't be a business anymore. It'd go into collapse. There'd be no business. The only thing he'd be left with is Instagram and WhatsApp. And I mean, do you think it'd really worry him? He'd just build out his other businesses that he has online. And I mean, you're all on Facebook and Instagram, yet you're all ragging it out saying good on the Australian government. Good on the Australian government for what? Being mobsters trying to extort money out of businesses? How and when did that become okay, people? And another news story. that is hidden in amongst all of this that mainstream media have been falsely reporting on, right? Um, Facebook blocks Australia access to news, but charities and community groups also wiped out. Really? Really? Also wiped out. The project, right? This is the project. Also wiped out. Really? Honestly. Let me just see about that. Community groups and charities. Let me just see about that, hey? Let me just go into here. Oh, look, here's my profile. Here's the Queensland Health, right? Queensland Health. And I'm actually viewing my profile as a visitor. Like, I'm not viewing my profile as an admin. I'm viewing my profile as as a visitor, right? As somebody who's not a friend would see my profile. Okay, Queensland Health. Here's a post that I shared 24 minutes ago from Queensland Health about the numbers of coronavirus in Queensland. And it's still there on my profile. Yesterday, here's a post I shared from a snake catcher who has a community page and a community group on Facebook. And look, the post is still there. Here's a news channel, poor Mike West, right? This guy is an independent journalist. And unfortunately, yes, all of his content on Facebook did get wiped out. So I went and found him on YouTube. And I'm now sharing his YouTube channels. And look at this. This has been up since 6:29 yesterday, right? People can see it. He's a journalist. It's Australian news. And yet I've shared it from YouTube to Facebook. It's still there on my Facebook. Look at that. Wow. Oh, okay. Queensland Police from Twitter, right? I've shared Queensland Police story that I seen on Twitter on my profile. I did that on Friday, February the 19th, and that's still there. Right, that's a community service announcement, about a mother and a daughter who went missing, right? Okay, not a problem. Okay. Of course, Facebook, Australia, fb.com, their post is up. And look at this, right? I've even talked about the newsroom from the Newsroom podcast. Australia vows to make Facebook pay for ban, right? From the Newsroom podcast, right? I specifically used language that should have seen this post not be able to get posted. And I did that on Friday at 6:30 a.m. my time. And here's the post still there on my profile. Right, still there on my profile. I'm having a dig. Obviously, I'm having a dig at mainstream media here and encouraging people to go over to this channel and, join in on the comment thread. So I'm purposely taking a dig at news media, yes, but it's news media all the same. And it's, from the Newsroom podcast, Australia vows to make, right? It's news. It's Australian news. This is news.com.au. It's Australian news. It's, part of the whole big, mainstream news media guys that are trying to bill Facebook for sharing their content. And okay, I've shared their content from YouTube for them over onto Facebook so people on Facebook can see them. So I don't know about this whole, community service pages and stuff. I mean, Queensland Health is a community service. It's a community service. So, I mean, what are people complaining about? I mean, I don't get it. Queensland Police, they're a community service. I just don't get what people are complaining about. So I'm going to exit the view there. And hopefully I have enough juice. But yeah, charities, right? So apparently charities were hit hard. So charities. What's a charity here in Australia? The Smith family, right? Let's go the Smith. Oh, and let's go the Red Cross, right? Actually, no, let's just do the Smith family. I just want to show you, right? I just want to show you what a crock of shit the news can be sometimes, right? And how they can spin things, for their own, right? For their own benefits. Okay. This page is moderated 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So the page is still here on Facebook. Look at that. Page is still here on Facebook. So I'm gonna I'm gonna click on the page and let's go to the charity and see, right? Well, okay. February the 18th, there's a post. I could share this post onto my page. Not a problem. It would stay on my page. I could share this next post onto my page. It would stay on my page. Not a problem. I mean, I can go to the page of let's see, news.com.au, right? So I can still go to these guys. Let's go to their page. They still have their page, right? See, news.com.au. That's the YouTube video that I shared onto my page, right? Now, I'm on their page. See, I'm on their page. It's fine. They need to, put up a new banner for starters. And, there's no posts there because they're all news stories. However, I can easily access, if I wanted to, I can easily access their stories. I can send them an email. I can easily click here and I can go to their website. I can do that with any Australian news media. The pages are still on Facebook. It's just their posts have been removed. The content they put on their Facebook posts has been removed because they want Facebook to pay them for their content. Facebook doesn't want to pay them for their content, so Facebook removed the content. That's all. They didn't block the pages. They didn't block the groups. They didn't take down charities and all of that sort of stuff like these guys claimed over here. Remember when we're over here, right? Charities and community groups also wiped out. Well, I went to a charity group. I went to the Smith family. Their posts are all still there. I'm in some community groups and we haven't noticed any issues in our community groups. Our posts are still there. So, this is false media, people, from quite a reputable, well, what's considered to be a reputable news source in Australia, The Project. Right? Not that I consider them to be reputable, but anyway. This here, 7 News, Facebook crisis over Australian news ban. This is all just from these guys here, ABC News, Channel 4 News, Channel 9 News, right? Sky News, Fox News, right? This is all propaganda that these guys are spinning. The only thing Facebook took away was the content that these news pages were posting. But you can still go to all of these pages that you like and follow. You can still go to these pages. You can type in the page and you search. You can go to the page. You can click on the website link and you can go to the website and you can read the content. There's no block on the content there. Look at that. And these guys freely have a website. Look up here. They've got a whopping big advertisement up here that makes them money. They've got advertisements all down the side of their pages that make them money. And still, so they're making money off all of these advertisements, the advertisements at the top, yet they still want Google to pay them for having their content on Google. Well, I'm sorry. I don't even think Google should have paid. I don't think Google should have backed down. I don't think they should have come to an agreement with the Australian government, with the Australian Prime Minister, and they should have just stuck to their guns and said, no, we're not paying. You can take your content down. You go to Google and take your content off Google. You go, remove it, or we'll remove it for you. Right? That's what Google should have done. They should have done the same thing as what Facebook did. These guys get paid for all of this, yet they still want to double dip and they want to extort more money out of other businesses just because Google and Facebook happen to make a lot of money. So they've just basically thought, well, okay, these guys are doing better than what we're doing, so we're going to try and extort money out of them. Honestly, people, that is exactly what is going on here. So before you go to these news sites like Sky News and all of that sort of stuff and you rip it into Facebook, you think about that. Because if you rip it into Facebook and these big corporations back down, then your little social media services that you're on like TikTok, Snapchat, MeWe, and any of the others that you're involved in, they're going to be next. The Australian government and news media are going to come after them next. And honestly, those small guys don't have the money to pay. And they're going to close down. And then you're only going to be left with the big guys. You'll only be left with Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Google, and Facebook. That's it. And YouTube. That's it. You won't have anything else. They'll all close because they won't be able to pay and keep their business operational. And on top of that, there'll be small people who rely on building their business around sharing the news who will also go under as well. I mean, have a look at how many YouTube news channels, right? Not news channels in particular, but YouTubers, influencers on YouTube who have used, right, directly used and quoted stories from these guys. They're going to get hit as well. They're going to have to start paying as well for, regurgitating this news media content. Is that what you want? Do you want a world where the Australian Prime Minister, the current Australian Prime Minister, and the Australian news broadcasting media services are able to become mobsters and extort money out of every business that displays their content, even when they're posting their content publicly for us to share? Do you really want a world like that? Do you really want to say to the Australian Prime Minister and our Australian news broadcasting teams that it's okay for them to become bullies and extort money out of every business that relies or uses their content online? Is that what you want? Is that what you want? Do you really want to have to go to your website when you've maybe been talking about a new cancer cure and you've gotten a link and you've shared that link to a news broadcaster who released some information about a new cancer treatment? Do you really want to have to go and take that story down because now you have to pay for it? Because it's their content? They posted it publicly, but you weren't, now because you're using it, they're arrogant enough to think that the only reason you've got traffic is because you shared their news story on your website, which links back to their website. So now you have to pay them for that privilege. Remember that, people. Privilege. Okay, so don't get tied up in what's really going on here, okay? Try and hold your emotions at bay on how you feel about Facebook. If you don't like Facebook, cancel your account. Go in, delete all of your content, because you can do that. You can even download all of your content before you close your account, because I've done it several times. Go into Facebook, download and save whatever content you want, delete the rest of the content, and close your account. That will be your stand against Facebook, saying, I no longer like you, Facebook, so I'm no longer going to use your services. And then toddle off on your own little way and create your accounts elsewhere and become happy and involved in other social medias that suit your needs. No one's forcing you to walk into a business that you don't like. In real life, you won't go into a business that you don't like. Out of principle, you won't go into a business that you don't like. So, you'll go an extra 5 meters down the road to go into a business that you do like, because it's the principle of the matter. You have the same choice here online. So why are you all sticking it to Facebook? Why are you all dumbly like sheep in a paddock following what the Australian media is printing about Facebook in this whole situation? Why are you falling for this gag? I don't understand it. You're all logical, intelligent people. Yet I see your comment threads under some of these videos, and I'm asking myself, what happened to the intelligent, logical, free-thinking people of the planet? Why are they all supporting this newspaper, this news channel, who is working with the government to extort a business to pay for the privilege of having their content on their services? I can understand your animosity to Facebook, but I can't understand how you can support this. This is a criminal act, people. This goes back to the days of the mafia and the mobs, when they used to walk around the streets of New York and New Jersey and places like that and extort money out of small business people because they were operating a business in what they claimed to be their territory. That's what this is. And you're supporting it. You're there on there saying good on you, and you're supporting this move. So what, you want criminal activity? Is that what you're saying? You want these big corporations to be able to control your life and tell you what you have to pay for and what you don't have to pay for. So, before you keep going with your ludicrous rants at Facebook and supporting this move by the Australian Prime Minister and big news media in Australia who have you all fooled because of their headlines, before you start supporting them against Facebook just because you don't like Facebook, think about the long-term ramifications to every business across the internet, to everyone. And like I said, I am sad and I am sorry and I'm disgusted that Google even came to an agreement on this. I really do not understand it. And quite frankly, I think it's disgusting that our Australian government can actually create a legislation like this and pass it in Parliament without the vote of the Australian people. Because that's how things are supposed to work in this country, right? That particular legislation, they shouldn't be able to just pass that without the agreement of the Australian people. The Australian people should actually get a say on that particular legislation. We shouldn't be told that it's been passed and then be left to have to scurry and create groups and start getting petitions signed and hand over petitions saying we think your legislation is wrong and you need to rescind it. We shouldn't have to do that. This, in a democratic country like Australia, this should go to the people for a vote. And I guarantee you, if it went to the people for a vote, it would never have gotten passed, because there's only a few people who are still being fooled by the lies that these mainstream media companies are passing off in Australia. And I can guarantee you it's not only happening in Australia. All around the world, people are being fooled by mainstream media because their governments are telling them that the mainstream media is the only verified source. It's a legit source. Don't listen to fake news. And when they say don't listen to fake news, they mean don't follow independent journalists who are telling the truth and spreading good quality news, real news, right? Let's go to the West Report. All right, here we go. Who are spreading real news, right? Like this guy here, right? Real news. He's talking about it. And I mean, in this video here, the Facebook ban, he even goes over how it actually, affected his business, because a third of his users come from Facebook. But he's like, okay, all right, okay, that's fine. I'll find another way around that, right? I'll find another way to deal with that. And he's asking us all to share his content out, which I'm doing. I'm sharing. I can share all of his content, and that's what I'm doing. So, check out your independent journalists who don't have ulterior motives. Listen to their news stories. Understand what they're saying, right? Listen to what they're reporting on, because they're reporting the actual facts. See, Morrison's media manipulation. So you might want to go read this story as well, okay? So there you go. That's my little rant. I've rambled on for 30 minutes now. Nobody's probably going to watch this or listen to this. But anyway, if you do, please stop backing, a mob of, a group of mobsters, new modern mobsters who are trying to extort money out of hardworking businesses. Okay, Facebook makes a lot of money, but I can guarantee you they also pay out a lot of money to staff, officers. They have overheads, right? They have overheads. They have domain names that they have to pay. They've got hosting services that they need. They've got their own services, They've got their own servers that they have to pay for. It costs them a lot of money, right, to run the business that they're running. So they have to get something out of it. They have to get some money out of it. And it's not, the bulk of the money that they make is through their advertising platforms and their other businesses that they have online that people actually do pay for, right? So, whether you hate or love Facebook, this is not just about Facebook. This is about a criminal extortionist act by the Australian Prime Minister and large news media to extort money out of what they claim to be big business first. But once the legislation has been passed, and if you read the legislation, it doesn't just stipulate Facebook and Google, right? It talks about businesses. So these guys can then start coming after any business that's sharing their content online and request that they make a payment for having that content on their site or their platform. So this isn't just about the Australian government and Facebook. This is about a business taking a stand who can see past all of the bullshit and realise that this legislation is criminal at its core. Anyway, guys, this is Sandra signing off. I hope that eventually, people will come to some sort of sense and logibility, some logical sense as to what's really going on here. Okay, bye for now.